What is your full name, sir?
Ross W. Brown.
Where and when were you born?
And I was born in Munger, Michigan, Munger, in 9/24/24.
So how old are you right now?
90, 92.
Do you feel like you're 92?
Ooh, sometimes not. I still go dancing twice a week. I don't feel like it then.
Physically, talk to me about what it's like to be 92.
Well, you have to slow down a little bit, although I still do all my own yard work. I have a little garden, and I still drive. And I guess outside of that, I can't do some of the things I used to do, of course. I have bad hips right now. I had them both replaced, and then I broke one all up, and between my hips and my back, it slowed me down some. But I still have a nice little chick to go out with, and we dance a couple times a week. I go to the gym 3 times a week and exercise, and that keeps me going. So.
What branch of the military were you in during World War II?
I was infantry,
What division, regiment, and company were you in?
3rd Division, 7th Infantry Regiment, 2nd Battalion, Company E, 3rd Squad, or 3rd Platoon, 2nd Squad.
And what was your specific role in Company E?
Well, just a combat soldier. Most of the time, after first few times, I was usually first scout. I don't know if you're familiar, but when we used to go from one place to another on the road or in the town, we always had 1 and 2 scouts go ahead and lead out, usually 100 yards or so ahead of the company. And that got sort of to be my job. I kind of liked it. I always felt I had a little edge on doing that, because most of the time I always felt the Germans would let us in as scouts and then wait for the main body to come behind us. And of course, as soon as the first shot was fired, I'm on the ground, hugging the ground. So I felt I had a little bit of an edge on being the first scout, even though I was ahead of the whole company.
What was the highest rank you achieved by the time you left the armed services?
First lieutenant.
Now, you said you were born in Munger, Michigan. Did you grow up in Munger?
Yes.
Talk to me about growing up in Munger. What kind of things did you do for fun?
Well, actually, Munger, I shouldn't hardly even say Munger is a township. Munger is just a little bitty village that had 2 grocery stores, 3 churches, 2 bars, and an implement dealer and a hardware, and that was about it. I lived a mile south, or my folks lived a mile south of Munger, on a little halfway farm. My dad was a rural mail carrier, and my mother died when I was 6 years old, and my dad was injured about the same time, and he was a crippled. He used 2 canes to walk. So there were 7 of us in the family, 7 of us kids. So we kind of had to work out among the farmers and whatever we could do to earn money, which our money we all had to give to our dad so we could pay the taxes. And we had about a mile to walk to school, a rural school. We did have 2-room school, not a 1-room, but a 2-room school. We called it the little room and the big room. So the little room was from kindergarten through 4th grade, and the big room was from 4th grade through the 8th grade. I could not go to high school because we were too far away and had no transportation. They didn't have buses those days. Besides, I had to stay home and work. At the time, I was working for the neighbor, milking cows and hoeing corn and beans and thinning sugar beets and all the other good stuff, anything to make money. So I didn't go to high school. Later on, after I came back from Korea, I did go to junior college and got my 2-year degree. That was when I was about 30-some years old. I guess that pretty much sums it up.
Well, talk to me about growing up in the Great Depression.
That was during the Depression. That's what I say. We had to work to try to support our family, the 7 of us. My sister used to pick berries and do whatever they could. And so as far as eating, we ate whatever we could. We had a lot of beans because the farmers raised beans and we could get those for nothing. We used to get potatoes from the farmers because my brother and I especially worked in the potato fields for the farmers. And we would grade the potatoes and we had to take out the cut ones and the sunburned ones that they couldn't sell. And most of them we could bring home. So we used to bring those home to live on. And we also brought enough home usually for the winter. So we had that. And then we got whatever else we could. But my dad would not accept welfare. We got along without it. And he got a little pension from his his mail route, because he got injured. And between that, we survived. But the Depression was bad for everybody because many of the farmers lost their farms. And, we didn't know it, that we were having it that bad because everybody else did so.
Were there any specific instances, though, that really made you realize there's a Great Depression going on? Things that you saw or heard around you?
Yeah, I know when the local bank in Munger, that was 1927, went broke. And I heard my grandpa, who at the time I would have only been pretty young, but I remember my grandpa saying that he had sold his farm and he lost his money in the bank. Shut down. Plus, I remember the neighbor was working at the one Chevy plant in the Saginaw, General Motors plant, and they used to work 2 days, maybe 3 days a week, because they would be over visiting sometime. They'd say, well, this week we're going to work 2 days a week is all, or 3 days. And of course, there was no unions or anything. Whatever the company said, that's what they did, So I remember that.
What did you want to do with your life before the war?
I didn't really care. All I wanted to do, and I used to say it when I was a kid even, I don't care what I do, it's whatever I can make the most money at. Because money, to me, was a hard thing to get. There wasn't any. So I always said, I don't care what I do. If I have to dig ditches, if I make the most money digging ditches, that's what I'm going to do.
And tell me, what high school did you go to?
I didn't go to high school. There wasn't any high school that I could go to. It was too far away, and we had no transportation.
So what was your highest level of education?
Well, at that time, 8th grade. But then when I came back from Korea, that's when I went back to junior college, and I passed the exam test, and I got into junior college and graduated my 2 years. It took me 3 years to do it, but I got my degree in junior college. So I didn't go to high school, but I went to college.
Saved yourself a lot of trouble by not going to high school.
Well, I skipped it, didn't I?
Tell me, though, how did you hear about the attack on Pearl Harbor?
Laying on the living room floor. We had an old farmhouse, and I remember we used to get the funny paper on Sunday. And I was laying on the floor, and we had a radio. And it came over the radio about 2 o'clock in the afternoon that Pearl Harbor was bombed. And my dad says, well, I knew it all along, we're going to have war. He says, it's going to be, now we're in the war. So he was apparently predicting it ahead of time. I don't remember, but in his mind, he thought we were going to get in the war even before the Pearl Harbor.
What were your thoughts when you heard that the U.S. had been attacked?
Oh, nothing particular. Just that we figured, the neighbor boy and I remember coming home from school, we said, well, I wonder if we'll ever serve in the Army. And that was a little before that, because in 1939 they started the draft. And I remember saying to him at the time, I wonder if we'll ever get drafted. And then when Pearl Harbor started, why, we were still too young for the draft, but we're getting close. So no, my brother, he enlisted right after January, after Pearl Harbor, in the Marines, and I was ready to go too. I was too young, but and my dad didn't want me to go because I was helping out at home. So was doing a little farming and a few other things. So
Did your brother get into combat?
yeah, he landed in what was the first one they landed on? Oh, that's all.
Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal, yeah, he landed in Guadalcanal. He joined the Marines. They went over to New Zealand and trained, and then from there they went to Guadalcanal. He landed there, and then he landed in that next one that was bad. He got wounded in there.
New Britain, Peleliu,
No,
Okinawa,
which one?
Okinawa, no.
No, it was before that. The one that the Marines,
Saipan?
huh?
Saipan?
No, it was before that. It was about the second one they landed on. They
Cape
lost.
Gloucester.
Pardon?
Cape Gloucester.
No, they
That's the second one they landed on.
was it? They lost a lot of men there. In fact, they kind of always now they celebrate that day, the Marines.
Oh, Iwo Jima?
Iwo Jima, yeah. And he got wounded there, so then he came home on leave, and after he got out of the hospital, and then when they went back, the Marines put him on a cruiser ship as a gunner. They used to use Marines for gunners on there, anti-aircraft gunners. And he served the rest of the war on that. He says, boy, what a deal. From being a grunt to being on a ship with 3 meals a day and a bed to sleep in, he thought he had it made.
Is he still alive?
No, he died. Oh, he died probably 30 years ago.
Oh, gosh. Did he talk to you about the war?
Not too much. We did some, but not too much. He always talks about Okinawa, how the Japanese at night would come charging in. And at the time, most of the Marines had the old .03 rifle instead of the M1. And he said when they got the M1s, that was great because it fired much faster, And the Japanese would come in at night, charging in. And, of course, they had their bayonets all fixed. They're wanting to kill you. But
now tell me, how did you end up in the service?
well, another strange thing, I wanted to go in earlier when I got 18, and about that time, my dad didn't really want me to go in because I was helping at home. And I said, no, I'm going to go in. Well, about that time, I got sick, and don't ask me what they called it. They called it arthritis, but my shoulder all swelled up, and then my knees all swelled up, and I couldn't walk or anything. I was in bed, and I was in bed for about 8 months, and I couldn't be drafted or anything. So that held me up from going in the service. So finally, when I got going that I could walk again, and I went to work at the foundry over in Saginaw, Gray Iron Foundry. I worked there about 3 months, which kind of built my strength all up. And then I went down to the draft board and said, I'm ready to go in. So they were real happy. They said, oh boy, we got a volunteer. So then I was drafted and went in. But that held me up about a year from going in.
So you would have been in combat a lot earlier if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, I would have been in a lot earlier, about a year earlier.
Why do you want to go into the infantry?
Oh, I don't really care whether the infantry or not. I just wanted to get in the Army. I wanted to go.
Why the Army, not the Navy?
No, I didn't really care for that. I just wanted to go in, that's all.
So
I really didn't care what it was.
where did they send you for basic training?
Camp Fannin, Texas.
Take me through a typical day of basic training.
Oh, basic training, usually they get you up early in the morning, and we'd go on a forced march sometimes for like 3-4 miles, then have breakfast, and then they had different training. We'd have rifle training, And then we'd go after a rifle train, which took a couple weeks. They trained us real good on that. We had dry runs. You'd practice all laying down, squatting, all different guns, and how to take your gun apart and put it together and so forth. And then we went to machine guns and mortars and practiced throwing hand grenades and the whole bit from week to week. And the funniest thing I think happened in basic training about the third or fourth day, our first sergeant, we called him, he yelled for us to fall out. This is early in the morning. Fall out with just your raincoats and your boots. Well, most of us let our shorts and underwear on, and we fell out, and he yelled, "Get back in there and get that off. All we want is your raincoats and your combat boots. That's it." So we fell out. Here we are naked with nothing but a raincoat on. Well, what it was for a short arm inspection. You know what that is. They march you down. They got a medic sitting in front of you. You pull open your coat. They look at the front of you, and then you turn around, swoop up in the back. They look at your rear, and you're done. And that's why they, for a short arm inspection, which was actually pretty efficient to run a whole bunch of men through. I'm glad I wasn't a medic.
Tell me about some of the punishments that would be doled out at basic training.
The only thing I remember much of, and I was very conscientious. I loved the training. And I was in good physical condition by then, so it didn't bother me at all. But yeah, a couple of times I had guys that either, I don't know if they'd went AWOL or what, they made them walk around the grounds. They filled their full fuel pack with bricks, and then they made them walk around that for like an hour or 2 hours around, carrying that load, you know. I remember that. Another time, they had a guy dig a hole. He was supposed to dig it 6 by 6, but I don't know if he got that deep or not. And what he did on that, I don't remember, but something he did bad. But outside of that, that's about all I remember. Most of the guys were pretty good. We had one go AWOL. He was part Indian from Arizona. And about the third week, he disappeared. So he went AWOL. He said he was going to go, and he did.
After basic training, where'd you go?
We come home on leave, went to the port at Baltimore, and shipped over.
Now, before we continue, talk to me about the firing range.
Firing range, I had used, in fact, I still got my gun, my first gun when I was about 11 or 12 years old, because we used to hunt out where I lived, mainly pheasants and rabbits and so forth, but anything we could shoot for food. And so I was well familiar with guns. So when we went on the rifle range, I wanted to make expert. So I was real careful in doing my shooting and so forth. And out of 200 shots, I got 182, which means if you got 180, you were an expert. And that's what I made. I was real happy about that. So I was real conscious with my rifle. I loved that M1. And I did even later on. But that was my baby. So, yeah, the rifle training they did the most of. And some on the machine gun, some on the mortars, and let's see, what else did we have? That's pretty much it. But
when you were a teenager, did you go steady with anyone?
Yes, I had a girlfriend before I got sick there. I had a lady friend, a little girlfriend. I was about 16, 17, and the only trouble is she wanted to get married, and I wasn't about to get married at that age. And I went with her even though just before I went in the service, I went with her again. Nice, she was a very nice lady, very nice girl, but I just wasn't interested in marriage, and she was pushing it hard, so I dropped her then. So.
But back then, what kind of things would teenagers do on date nights?
Well, we had what we call Lalone's Ballroom out here. Saturday night, we went dancing there at the Lalone's Ballroom, and it was all mainly young teenagers went there, and they had a band there and played. Otherwise, not a whole lot. We used to have the theater, go to a show, movie. You'd go to a movie for a quarter, And we used to go roller skating sometimes. We had a roller skating rink. And what else? That's about the wintertime we used to go ice skating. And that's about it. Yeah. Go out and neck and all them things, you know.
Oh, what do you mean? What's neck?
Make love in the car.
No, you wouldn't go all the way to fourth base in the car.
Pardon?
I thought back then they wouldn't do that.
Oh, you didn't think so, eh? Where do you think babies come from?
You're saying you lost your virginity before you even went off to war?
Well, let's say wasn't real, but her and I, we did a few things, yeah.
I was going to say, because no wonder she wanted to get married.
Yeah.
She could have been pregnant.
No, she wasn't pregnant.
No, but on a serious note, the veterans who I've talked to, a lot of them told me that back then, see, like now in today's culture, when you're dating, you know, all you think about is sex.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I heard back then, you know, you could go steady with someone for a while when you're a teenager and just kiss and that's it.
Yeah, you did, no.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So anyways.
Not near as much as what they do today, you know.
I mean, is that because both parties wanted it to be like that? Like you thought it was classier? Or is it because the girls just weren't as open?
Well, they were being, with their parents were real strict and so forth, you know. And they were brought up not to do it. That's all.
Which
yeah.
is different than, I guess.
Yeah.
When you look at the people today, do you just feel like they're not as classy?
Well, the trouble is, I don't know if you ever watched Judge Judy, but I watch Judge Judy on the TV every once in a while. And these people, they live together for a couple of years, have a baby or two, and then break up, and now are a big mess. And they don't have any money, and, you know, it's a big mess. Why they don't get married and have kids, I don't know. I mean, you know, but I guess they want to have kids first and then get married. I don't know.
Anyways, talk to me about, so after you came home, after basic training, you went home for leave.
Yeah.
What was it like saying goodbye to your family before you shipped off?
Nothing too much. They all, I only had a couple of sisters at that time, and my dad. I didn't have a mother. And
was that real tough on you when your mom passed away?
Not too much. I was only 6. I didn't really realize what it was about.
But growing up without a mother?
Yeah, then it did. It probably affects me even today. My first wife used to say, if your mother would have been alive, she would have straightened you out, you know. So, you know, you don't get some of the manners and things that you should from a mother.
If she's not there.
That's right.
Now, you were a replacement. Is that what
Yeah.
You were in a replacement cadre?
Yep, we landed in France.
Well, talk to me about the journey.
Well, we were on an old victory ship going over, because we went to Baltimore and loaded right on a ship and went over, and we were down towards the bottom. We had these ladders to go down. They had these bunks set up about 5 high, 6 high, these little things that folded down, and we slept in those. And then when we went up to eat, we'd go up to eat. We had to climb up the ladder if you weren't sick, and go in the mess hall. We stood up, and they had long tables that you'd get your mess gear. Well, they had mess gear there. We didn't carry any with us, and get our food, and then we'd stand up and eat. And we had to watch because the ship was going sideways a lot of times with the waves, and your food would go sliding down the board. And I remember the floor was wet and a lot of times water, and guys had thrown up and sloppy, and once in a while they'd come in with a hose and wash it down. Otherwise it was there. So it wasn't too great of a too great of a trip going over. We got to France, and then we loaded on boxcars and rode those to the repo depot, replacement place. They call it a repo depot. And from there, they took a truck and loaded us. We were only there a couple of days, and we loaded up and went up to our outfit in the 3rd Division.
At the Repo Depot, where are you sleeping? Is it Tent City or?
No, it was at some old like factory in France. Uh, it was just an old building. They
With
had
beds
cot
and all that
they
though.
had cots in there.
So take me there. How did you end up in the third division though?
Darned if I know. Wherever they needed replacements, they called up and needed replacements. So what they did when I was with them, if you lost some men, then the captain would probably call the regiment. I'm not sure what their procedure was because I wasn't involved. Call up the regiment and say, well, I need 5 men or whatever, and they would call up and probably the regiment might need 50 men, and the Repo Depot would send them up, and then they'd split them up, and we'd get our 5 men, and the other ones get theirs. Yeah,
So
it was just a chance. I'd never even heard of the third division.
that's what I was gonna ask you.
No, I never heard of them before. I'd heard of the first and the second, but
But you had never heard of the third.
no, I never heard of the third.
So tell me though. So you're just at the Repo Depot, then they call your name and they say, "Get on that truck."
Yeah, that's all.
Is that really what?
Yeah, get your bag and load on the truck. Yep.
And did you know you were in the third division at that point, or only once you arrived?
Only when I arrived. When we arrived, not our captain, there was the battalion commander. He come and gave us a little talk about the third division, how good they were and how great we were and all that good stuff. And that was it. So then I knew I was in the third division.
How many of you were there, replacements at that one time?
I think there was about 10. And they split that up among our company.
But the battalion commander came just for those 10?
No, there was more than that. There was more in the battalion. There was probably 30 or 40 down to the battalion. And then they split them up among the companies.
No, I'm saying.
Yeah, no, he talked to about 50 men. See?
Oh, okay. You know what I meant.
Yeah. And then they split us up among them. And got down to the company, and then I had our
You around the company.
our squad leader, who wasn't even a sergeant, he was just appointed one, and told us what to do and throw away this. And in fact, I never could understand why the Army had to bring us a whole bag full of goods. We get there and dump it all out, and we don't carry it.
Where do you put it?
I don't know. I think it must have been the supply people must have picked it up, because when we were just out in the open on the ground, and we got what they told us to carry, and our ammunition belt, and we cut the straps off our full field pack because they weren't any good. We had to hire. The Army never taught you this. They had to put those over your shoulders and snap them on your belt and loosen your belt. Because see, if you walked with your belt tight, well, just a half a day of walking, your hips would get sore. So you loosened your belt, and your weight was all being carried on your shoulders with the straps. And you got those from your full field pack. And you threw the full field pack away. So we just left all that stuff on the ground, and we took off. So I assume somebody picked it up. Darned if I know. Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny that we had all this duffel bag full of clothes, and we left them. All we had was our jackets and all that good stuff. And then along the line, if you needed something, if you got replacements, why, then you going over, and what they didn't want, we could pick out what we wanted. So, because quite often I threw away my blanket a couple different times, and so I'd get a new blanket from some guy coming in.
What would you do to convince him for him to give you his blanket?
Well, he didn't want them. He'd come in, like we come in, we had about 3 blankets. Well, all he could carry is probably 1. So they, like I said, they just left their stuff on the ground.
So tell me though, so this, the de facto squad leader showed you around. What was he telling you about Company E?
Not a whole lot, just nothing. The guy told it, and then we took off walking right away, and I just watched the rest of them and followed what they did.
What was going on in your head? I mean, you're now in a combat zone.
Yeah, you're wondering what's going on. You don't know. you're saying, you know, and you don't really know what to do, except, you know, you got a rifle and a lot of ammunition and 3 grenades, and you've been trained to use them. So they didn't do a whole lot of explaining to me. They could have done better, I think.
Now, when did you join the unit?
The unit, it was right around, let's see, what it in February or March? Because they had left the.
I thought you said December.
No, but I didn't join the unit then. I had joined the. I got over there, but I got sick.
So how long? Wait. So did you stay at the repo depot?
Yeah, I stayed at the repo depot. Well, they put me in a hospital for a little while.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah. Then when
So
I
from
got
the
out.
repo depot, you went to the hospital.
Yeah. Then when I got out, went back to the repo depot and then up the front. I don't just remember when.
I thought it was January, February.
Yeah, right in there.
Which one?
I would say February. Yeah, I would say February.
So, is it still cold at this time?
Yes, it was cold.
Talk to me about.
Still had some snow. Yeah, the first one of the first. But we were at that time we were kind of sitting still, and we went on patrols, night patrols, and I didn't know. I had heard about them and training and stuff, but I didn't know much about them. So about the second time we went on a patrol, we're supposed to go out there and see if there's anything out there, you know, enemy, which is kind of silly, you know, they're out there someplace. So about the second night we went out, there was 4 of us. I'm leading off. We come to this little town a couple miles away, and it's like 2 in the morning. It's dark, pitch dark, can't see nothing, and everything is quiet. I mean, real quiet. So we're walking in this little town, a little farm town, cobblestone, you know, they all have cobblestone. So we're walking as quiet as you can. And bingity, bingity, bangity, bang. Well, what happened? The Germans had tied it across a string with tin cans on. And I bumped into them. So right away I heard the Germans shout, "Halt! Halt!" So that was fast enough for me. I went back about, it wasn't very far, maybe 50 feet, there was a street. So I ducked down that street, and I just ducked down that street when he opened up with a machine gun. Well, the guys behind me had heard it too. They had ducked out of the way. So I went down a little ways, there was a stream, and I ran down the side street, and I got into the stream. Well, I knew we'd crossed the stream back a ways on a little bridge. So I walked down the stream, it was only about knee deep, down and got to the little bridge where the guys were there. I met the other guys, there was 4 of us all together. And then we headed back, and I'm sopping wet. So I got back finally to the unit about 4 or 5 in the morning. So I finally got the supply sergeant to get me some dry pants and some dry socks, put them on in the cold, in the snow, and put my boots back on even though they were wet, and was back where we were.
During the war, the patrols that you went on, were they all reconnaissance, or did you have combat patrols as well?
No, just reconnaissance. At the time we always went, we just went out, usually 4 men. That was our schedule there, seemed to be.
And what was the purpose of the patrol usually?
To see where the Germans were. Like there, we could go back and tell them, yeah, they're in that so-and-so town. But I never quite seen the sense of it. We knew they were out there. It's just a matter of where, I guess. But that was our job, to go out there and circle around and see if we find any Germans. Whatever. Seems kind of silly to me now, but.
Tell me about your first time taking on the German artillery.
The main thing the artillery really wasn't artillery, it was tanks and flak guns. When we went to, we snuck in this town, Ottweiler. It's in the book. And supposedly we're going to sneak in there about before daylight. Well, as we come up to the town, I was leading out with my first scout, and as I got near the town, it was dark. I couldn't really see there was a town. It was just a dirt road we was on, and I heard the German yell, "Halt! Halt!" So I fired a couple shots at him, and I hit the ground. And I heard our captain yell to the men, "First platoon on the right, second platoon on the left." And about, oh God, it seemed like only 30 seconds, maybe a minute, they all opened up fire in a scrimmage line, and then our machine gun opened up, and they come on in. Well, about the time we got into town, it started getting daylight, and we'd caught the Germans by surprise. They had apparently been sleeping in the houses, and they come running out. Some of them didn't even have their boots on, and we had caught them, and there probably was 30 to 40 of them had been hit, either wounded or killed. The rest of them had taken off up the hill. They had left. Well, Utwiller, we went into town, and like you do, you sit down and maybe eat your sea rations or whatever, waiting for orders to go on or whatever. And about a half an hour, kaboom! I looked up, and that was an artillery shell that came in, hit the buildings, and then there was 4 or 5 of them. I looked up on the hill, and there was about, I think either 8 or 10. There was about 4 tanks, German tanks, and 4 of these other, like half-tracks. And they were sitting on the hill, and it looked like about 1,000, but I think there was only a couple hundred German soldiers, infantry, lined up across the hill above the town. So, and now they opened up with their artillery, the tanks and these other ones shooting into the town where we were. So I looked around, and our platoon sergeant said, "Let's get out of here." So away we ran out of the town, up the hill, and some of the other guys did too. Some of them got caught and got captured. Well, we waited up there waiting for something. Our captain had made it up too. He was a pretty good runner. He made it up the hill. Well, of course, he had called the regiment. Well, then in about an hour, our artillery opened up on the town. First I heard the 105s and then the 155s, and then 4 or 5 tanks. We had 4 tanks come up, and then they had 2 other companies of men come up. Well, then we attacked the town. First the artillery hit them, and then the artillery opened up on the German tanks that was up on the hill yet. Well, they turned and took off. And, then we formed a scrimmage line and went into town, and the Germans, we didn't kill or capture. They went up the hill again, the other side, and we took over the town. And the poor little town was all messed up. The cows were running loose, and some of them killed, and the barns burning, and the houses burning. It was a mess. So as I went up the hill on the other side when we left, I looked back. I always remember looking back at the town and seeing these poor people trying to save their animals and their buildings, and I don't know, we left. I thought, poor civilians, their town all blown to pieces for nothing.
Do you remember the first time you saw a dead German?
Yeah, I saw one, in that town I saw some, and we were in a town just before that, and I saw some.
Somewhat.
A couple dead Germans, yeah. And then I also in that first town, I remember seeing one of our GIs. It wasn't our outfit, another GI. He was laying there dead too. Nobody had paid any attention to him yet because they picked him up later on. We didn't bother with him.
Was that your first time seeing a dead American?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Not really. He wasn't blowing apart or anything. The worst ones that I saw really bad was when we were going to cross the Rhine River. After we left these other towns, we rode tanks over to the Rhine River. That was on March 26th or something, and we laid in the beside the main would be expressway today for us, Autobahn. They had blown the bridge, and we laid right beside where the bridge was, waiting for in the morning. When the morning came, I show you the little boats. We had we had to wait for 8 men, and we'd run out to the boat. Well, in the meantime, they had opened up with artillery, the Germans, and they had hit several GIs. And that was the first time I ever seen such a mess from artillery. And artillery is terrible. It just tears you to pieces. And there was guys there with their top of their head blown off and, their guts out. And it was a mess. We had to run and jump over these in order to get to the boat. And that was the worst mess I ever seen. These guys I had one in Nuremberg, was pretty bad, but...
what happened there?
Well, Nuremberg, that second morning, we were going up a hill trying to take it. There were apartment houses. And why our captain did that, I don't know. I'm sure he thought it was all right. We spread out on just barely daylight, not even daylight really, but just getting daylight. We spread out on a long scrimmage line, the whole company, even our first sergeant. And we were going up this hill towards these apartment houses. Well, they opened up with the machine guns, the Germans, and hit a few guys. And we finally went up the hill and took the apartment houses. The Germans, they took off. Well, we got up there, and on the end of this one apartment house, there was steps, probably 8-foot wide steps, kind of long, and went up to like a porch or deck on this apartment house. Oh, I'm sorry. And so our platoon sergeant said, a couple of you guys go up that porch and see what's in the building there. So this Johnson was one of the guys in our outfit. I don't know his name, just Johnson. He said, I'll beat you, to me. So the two of us went to go up the steps here, and he went up the steps ahead of me. And just as he got to the top, boom, big explosion. Whether it was a mine or what, I don't know. But it blew him to pieces, and really it saved me because it blew me back about 30 feet onto these damn cobblestone street. And that's what I hurt my back. And I was kind of knocked out. So I laid there maybe not even a minute. And then I kind of woke up and I thought, oh my God, my rifle's gone. My rifle was over there and my helmet was gone. So I crawled over and got my rifle and my helmet because I didn't know if there was Germans around or not. In the meantime, the rest of the squad had taken off. So I felt my back hurt, and poor Johnson, he was blown to pieces. It looked like the top of his head had been blown off and his innards, blowing up apart. So I knew he was dead. So I felt at my face and I had blood on it. I thought, oh, maybe I got hit. I don't know. My back hurts me. So the medic was down there picking up, the battalion medic was down below picking up the wounded from the first time we got hit. So I said, well, I'll go down there. So I walked down the hill, and one medic come up and he said, oh yeah, you're blood. So he wiped me down, and he says, I don't think you're hit at all. You're just blood. And I said, yeah, there was a guy ahead of me got all blew up. So I said, maybe it's just from him, his innards stuff. So he wiped my face all off, and I said, my back is killing me where I landed. And so while we're talking, our captain came running down, and he says, Ross, he said, we need help. He says, can you help us up there? And he said, I'll see if I can get another guy or two. I said, yeah, I guess so. So I went up with him and another guy. We went back up the hill again and around the apartment house, and he said, well, there's some guys up ahead. Go ahead and catch up to them. So I said, okay. So that was the end of my back injury then. And it bothered me really ever since. I should have had it treated, or looked at. We went on then, and the rest of that day was a terrible day. We'd lost a lot of men down below, and then just as I caught up to the guy. They'd shot one squad leader right through the chest, killed him. Well, they hit another guy too in the shoulder, but he didn't die. And then we got into the pencil factory, and so we spent the next half a day in this pencil factory shooting back and forth at the Germans, and we did kill 6. I kind of think now they might have been Hitler Youth, and I don't know, they looked awful young. We were shooting out the window from the second story, and these 6 Germans were sneaking across the fence, oh, maybe a couple 100 feet away. So we opened up and shot them up. And so we stayed in there till, probably 6 o'clock. And then we finally discovered where the rest of the unit was. So we ran over and joined them then in the company and for the rest of the day, which we didn't do much more during the day. Then the next morning we continued on the streets of Nuremberg. And that's what I say. It was the 3 days in Nuremberg was terrible because it was all street fighting, and we lost probably half our company there. The next morning, that night, we got to, on the second day, we kept on going down the streets. Sometimes there was shopping places, and then sometimes there was apartment houses, and I was getting all pooped out because you go up and down those steps in an apartment house, you get all tired with your equipment. Well, I had one incident in an apartment house where we had 2 Germans on the one end and we were on the other end, and he threw a hand grenade at us, and we ducked in. So then I stepped out and threw one down the line at him, and man, that thing went off. It really made a lot of noise. And I don't know, we snuck down there to see if they were there, if we hit them or not. They were gone. I don't know if they jumped out the window or what. Well, then that night, just about dark, we got to the old wall city around the old Nuremberg. There was a wall city that was built probably 1500 or maybe before. I don't know, real old. It's probably about 20 feet high. Kind of a dark old stone part. And there was a doorway. And I said, man, if we got to go through that doorway, we're going to get shot for sure. So then I said, well, it was getting dark. We'll hold up for the night. Well, there was only 4 of us left in our squad. What was left, our mixed up squad. So 2 of the guys stayed downstairs. This old wrecked building had been bombed. The outer wall was gone, but it was like a hotel. The second floor we went up and there was a floor there, even though the wall was out. So we could sit there and look right out. And so we holed up there for a night. The chief, an Indian, we called him Chief. I don't know his name, but he was with us. He never talked much. He was from the reservation. He always wanted to go back to the reservations. So him and I stayed upstairs, and the other 2 guys went downstairs. And so I stayed awake. I told him I'd stay awake till later. So about 2 o'clock, I woke him up to stand guard, and I fell asleep. I laid on the floor, which was some old carpeting from the hotel. Well, just about daylight, I heard 2 shots, bang, bang. And Chief was standing there kind of with a grin on his face, and I looked out, and there was 2 Germans. He'd shot both of them in the head. I never seen it before, but there was blood coming out probably 3 feet high from the one German, from his head. Must have been the pressure, I don't know. Just squirting right up. Well, about that time, there was 4 more Germans down in the hole where the bombs had bombed out. You couldn't see them from us. Well, they jumped up and fired on poor us and poor Chief with the burp gun and hit him, killed him. Well, luckily I was laying down and the bullets went kind of over me. Well, luckily there was guys from our outfit down about a block, the same as we were sitting there for the night. They could see the guys in the back, so they shot the 4 Germans then. Well, then we just sat there for a while and waited. We didn't have any orders to go in or not. I said, we can't go in that door. We're going to get shot for sure. Besides, there was only 3 of us left in our squad. So about an hour, a runner come along, our runner from the captain, said, the Germans are going to surrender. They're all done. So wait for them. They're going to come out. So about 10 minutes is all. Out come a stick with a white flag on it out that door. And out come the Germans, and here they come. About 100 of them come out. So we just waved them on back, go on back. And that was the end of the firing for Nuremberg. We were all done. And it turned out it was such a nice morning, I couldn't believe it. The sun come out, and it was just like a new day. Because after 3 days of it, why, I was pooped out and beat out and everything else. So I was done fighting for that day. So then we went back and we even got a meal then, a cooked meal. It was just shit on a shingle, but boy, was that great. We hadn't had a cooked meal in over a month. We had sea rations always. So then the next morning is we had to shave that night. They told us we had to shave and clean up. The next day we had that big parade in Nuremberg on the big grounds where Hitler had his big things going on, where they used to have their big parades. Well, we had our big parade there. And a couple of the generals talked and so forth. And that was it. And then we took off. We headed towards Munich then, so that was the end of Nuremberg.
What about Munich?
Munich we bypassed. Our outfit, we went north of Munich. Not very far, but I know some of the units hit Munich and they hit the place where all the poor Jews were. But we were north of that. We went on into Salzburg.
Oh, you mean Dachau?
Yeah. Some of the units hit that, but we were, what I can figure out, I never knew at the time because we never knew, we didn't have maps or anything. We didn't know where we were going most of the time. But from what I can figure out, we must have missed Dachau and Munich, and some of the other units hit it.
What do you remember about Salzburg?
Salzburg was a nice town. We come in the afternoon, we were heading for it, and there's a river outside a ways, and just before we got there, we heard the bridge blowing. They blew the bridge, the Germans. So they brought, the engineers brought ducks up. In the afternoon, late in the afternoon, we crossed the river, and we went into Salzburg. And we got in, it was dark. And I remember our captain said, well, take over the hotel, move in the hotel and sleep there. So we went up to the second floor, another guy and I, and laid on a nice bed. Of course, them days you sleep with your clothes and everything on. And in the morning, then that's when they yelled for us to come on down, and that's when we went up to Berchtesgaden then. And our commander wanted us to take Berchtesgaden. The 101st was supposed to be there, but we were there ahead of him, so he wanted that little feather in his cap. I'm sure. We didn't know what was going on, but we didn't know. We just loaded up and went to Berchtesgaden and went up the hill and had a parade. Well, it's sort of a parade. A little ceremony, raised the flag, and looked at it, at Hitler's bombed out building, and that was it. We went back.
Do you remember, I mean, were you there for the flag raising?
Yeah. The first one, yeah.
Is that the one where they tried to have the French join?
Not that I know of. I think that was later, because there was nobody else there but us at the first time. That's why when we went back over, John and I, 8 years ago, they gave us a free trip back over there because we were the only ones they could find that was there on the first time.
So, by the time you guys got there, though, or by the time you got to Berchtesgaden, was there anything left to take, like any souvenirs?
No, I didn't see any, and I wasn't interested in souvenirs at the time anyhow. I could care less about that.
What was Berchtesgaden? Was it all bare?
Not the town.
No, I'm saying
Yeah,
his eagle nest.
Yeah. It was bombed out. It was wrecked.
But what did it look like?
Now I'm talking about the lower one, not the one way up on the mountain.
Oh, you didn't go to the mountain?
No. That wasn't. We didn't go there. You know, Hitler only went there once. He didn't like it, so that was not his deal at all.
So that's the one where the 101st went.
That could have been.
So you went to his actual house.
Yeah, the one down below. Well, it's still quite a ways above Berchtesgaden. It's up on the mountain there, but it's the lower part.
So what did his house look like?
That was the one that was all bombed out. No, that was wrecked.
What did the town look like?
Town was nice. There was nothing wrong with that. It's a pretty little town. Yeah, very nice. Yeah,
So you were just there for one day?
not even a day, a couple hours.
Oh, then where'd they send you?
Back to Salzburg, because that's where we were stationed at Salzburg. That's where we were supposed to be, is in Salzburg. Now, whether anybody else stayed up there or not, I don't know. I don't think so. Now, John said he rode a tank up there.
Yeah.
They went in the ditch. That's why I kidded him. I said, well, then you weren't there till after us, because you were in the ditch back there.
You saw the ditch?
No, I didn't see the ditch.
Well, anyways.
We were ahead of them, so.
Anyways, tell me, um,
Okay, I'm sorry.
no, don't be sorry.
To be real honest about it, I don't remember much. I remember going into Salzburg that night, sleeping up in the hotel, which is the first time I had a bed. Whoa! And boots and all, dirty shoes, everything. And in the morning, going up there, and they had their little ceremony. I don't know.
What did they say at the ceremony?
Oh, I don't know. Something about the 3rd Division. I didn't pay any attention. I could care less. I was tired anyhow. I've been going a long time. My back hurt me. I was tired. So I remember then we went back and we got in 2.5-ton trucks and rode back to Salzburg.
When you were in combat, did the other soldiers, did you guys grow out your facial hair or did you cut it and shave it?
Part of the time I shaved it. I grew a mustache for a while, but I didn't like my mustache, so I shaved it
I'm
off.
just saying in general, when you're in combat zone areas, do most of the guys have ragged looking facial hair or do a lot of them try to keep it clean?
No, most of them grow hair, yeah. Unless you're going to stop for a while or something like that, then they'll shave,
But how would you shave back then? It's not like you had razors.
I had one hook razor I carried with me, that's all. And for soap, I had little hand soap that I used. And I just washed that like this here, and that's all. Because you didn't have nothing else, no. Couldn't carry nothing else.
Would you cut yourself often?
Well, yeah, it hurt trying to get those whiskers off when you don't, you're not soaped up. The worst time I had was that night at Nuremberg when they told us they had orders to shave and look good for the next morning for the parade, which who in the hell was going to see us, but whatever. Whole division out there. And I had an awful time shaving that. It was dark by the time I got there. I'm shaving in the dark, no mirror.
Tell me about the kind of things that GIs would use the helmet for.
Well, not as much as you see in jokes on the thing, but we did use our helmet if we wanted to heat water or if you wanted to wash, like if you wanted to wash or shave, yeah, you could use your helmet for water, if you had water. You didn't even always have water. But sometimes, a couple different times, I took water out of a stream. I had those little Hell Zone tablets. I don't know if the water was good or not, but I put 2 or 3 of them in my canteen along with the water. And I never got sick, so maybe they did good. But yeah, usually, you didn't have water to shave with. So.
Talk to me about. You've told me a couple times off camera, but I want you to tell me about it on camera. The men that you were serving with, were a lot of them veterans from the North African, Sicilian, Italian campaign?
No. They were all. In fact, the oldest that I know of that we had was from Comar Pocket, because most of them got wiped out in Comar Pocket and replacements and stuff, and we had 1 or 2 that was older, and where they came back from, I don't know. This one guy was pretty well shaken up, nervous, and he always got lost, and it was kind of become a joke that whatever his name was, Charlie or something, I don't even know, but every time we'd go into combat to take a town or something, he'd get lost, and then he'd show up after, and I don't know, the captain or nobody ever said anything, so if they felt sorry for him or what. But I think he was scared to death, and he probably just didn't go in or hid out. come in a little behind the rest of us. So, but nobody ever said anything, so I didn't say nothing. So, but no, we didn't have any old guys with us.
So when you say old guys, you mean guys who fought in the early
Yeah, that was
campaigns?
with the outfit before. No, we didn't have even anybody from Italy that went on Angio.
In your entire company?
Not that I know of. No,
Definitely in your platoon, right? No one in your platoon.
no, I don't think anybody in the company that I know of.
Wow. And what? I know you weren't at the Colmar Pocket, were you?
No, I was right after that.
What was the Colmar Pocket though?
What it was after the Battle of the Bulge, we were down south of that. And the Germans had a pocket kind of sticking out into our line. And it was Colmar, including the city, plus more, and it kind of jutted into our line. And somebody up above decided we wanted to clear them out of there. So they gave the 3rd Division to clear out that Colmar pocket, which was the city of Colmar, and kind of straighten out the line.
But
And,
what was so difficult about the fighting there?
well, the Germans wasn't about to give up. They put up a hell of a battle. And and it was pretty much, again, a lot of street fighting and so forth. And the Germans put up according to the guys anyhow, put up a hell of a battle. And we lost a lot of men over it.
That's where Audie Murphy got the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, something about that one isn't right. And I don't know what it is. Maybe you know. Now, he got all the medals all the way from Africa up. And the other day on that one program, they said, well, here's his rifle that he carried. And it was a carbine. And I said, that don't make sense. No infantryman that I know of ever carried a carbine or wanted to carry a carbine. And they said it's in some institution anyhow, that this was his rifle that he carried. And it was a little M1 carbine, in which we used to call them kind of a toy, because they were kind of cheap made, you know. And good little gun, but I don't know, no infantrymen there, we wouldn't, that was kind of a no-no never to carry one of those. We didn't think that was good enough. M1 was a bunch better. But I have you ever heard of it in that?
No,
I just saw that maybe a month ago.
I haven't looked into his weapon.
They showed the picture of, and right away I knew it was a carbine. And they said this was a gun that he carried.
It could have been so.
And I thought, well, if he carried that,
I've met a few guys who used carbines.
maybe so. I don't know.
Tell me though, were there any incidents of friendly fire while you were with the unit?
Yeah, we ran into artillery, and I think it was our fault. When I say our fault, our captain or whoever, because we don't know where we're going or what we're doing. We're going in this town. It's just about dark, and we go into this town. There's a bunch of big buildings, apartment houses and stuff. We just get in there, and the artillery opened up, and kaboom, kaboom, it hit the side of the building, and I could hear it was a 105s from us, from our side. And I laughed. Some new lieutenant come running along and said, don't worry, it's our artillery. And I said, it don't make any difference. If they hit you, you're dead. You better get down. So just then, a tank had pulled up, one of the Sherman tanks. So I crawled underneath the tank. They'd stopped. I crawled underneath the tank, and they fired probably for a couple minutes. Well, then somebody got them stopped. And I had heard, I didn't know because you never hear nothing, what's going on. I heard the guy say, well, apparently we were supposed to wait for the artillery to fire in the town, and then we go in and take it, you know. And somebody got a little too fast, our outfit, and we got in there before the artillery. But that was scary when that artillery, because when you see what it does to people, it just tears them to pieces. It's really bad. So,
can you talk to me about the problem of German snipers?
Your
experiences with them.
Yeah, main thing I saw there was in Nuremberg. Uh, they killed, well, that one sergeant of ours. Other ones, you don't know where they're at. That's the big problem. And even when they fire, you usually don't know where they're firing from because they don't stick their gun out the window, you know. They sit back if they're smart and will fire out a window, but they're not sticking their gun out where you're going to see them. All you can do is shoot at the windows ahead of you, and that's what we usually do when we're taking these little towns in Germany. We would put a big skirmish line and open fire as we go in. Fire as fast as you can, and our machine guns firing, to throw as many bullets as you can into the town, hitting windows or whatever you can, with the idea of keeping the Germans down or out of the way until you get in there. Once you get in there, at least then you're on equal terms with them, you know. But the worst place we ran into that was in Nuremberg. And yeah, you didn't know where they're coming from or when they're coming.
What's that like, though, when you're in a town, not knowing if you have a bead on your head, you know?
Yep.
Everywhere you go, don't you feel that you would just be killed? Or do you not think about it?
Yeah, you don't really think about it, but we used to, if we're going into town on a street now, we always tried to have one group on this side and one group on this side. Now, this over here, we would watch the windows over there. This group would watch the windows on this side. So, therefore, we would kind of protect each other, see, especially from windows on the side. Now, the only thing is, if there's one up ahead of you, way ahead, they can be sitting and you're not going to see them if they get you. It's one of those chances you take.
Was that sergeant the only one you saw getting killed by a sniper, or did you see other guys getting hit by snipers?
That was the only direct one. That's what I say. We might have had other ones, I don't know. Especially that morning, I don't know there was a machine gun, we know that. But whether there were snipers up in the buildings or not, I don't know. They shot us up pretty bad anyhow.
Can you list to me the major fights that you were in by the time you joined the 3rd Division to the end of the war? The first one would have been what?
First one was a little town we went into, and really the first time that I had it, it was just early in the morning, and I wasn't up in front. One of the other guys was, and I heard a German say, "Halt, halt!" and he fired a shot or two. That's where I kind of learned how to do it. And then our captain, which he was a good captain, he stood right up on the road and said, "First squad," and third, must have been third because we were on a first platoon on the right, third on the left, and we opened fire. So we spread out real quick and then we fired. And if you ever think that you fire those 8 shots so fast, you'll never know it. It seemed like you just pull the trigger about once and bling, out comes the empty one. And of course you reload and keep firing as you're going into town. And that's where I learned really, the guy said, well, you fire at anything ahead, but keep your gun low and try to shoot at windows or anything at all that might, be hiding a German.
So that was your first engagement.
Yep.
What were the next ones?
Well, the next one I don't remember. I'm trying to think if I'm going to be able to remember any more. I think the next one was WWII. That was the big one for me.
What about the Siegfried Line?
Siegfried Line, we walked right through. There was nothing there. I'll be honest with you. People asked me about that, and I remember when we went through, they had those cement things,
The dragon teeth.
Yeah, and we walked right through the infantry. Now, how the tanks and stuff got through, if there was a opening someplace, I don't know. There wasn't where we were. So a vehicle couldn't have went through. But we went through with the infantry, and nobody tried to stop us.
And then when you crossed the Rhine River, were you taking it on fire from the Germans?
The artillery is all. I was surprised there wasn't more infantry, fire. But the only thing we got was artillery. They were shooting artillery at us.
And then there was Nuremberg.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of little towns in between.
Do any of them come to mind?
Not in particular, because I didn't keep track. I don't remember any of them.
Well, was there a lot of fighting in those little towns?
Oh, well, some was and some wasn't. You never knew. That's why we always went in usually me, after I get going, we'd come to a town, and me and my second scout, we'd go ahead into the town, and we'd get just about in the town. We'd find out if there's Germans or not, and usually they would open up, and then our guys would come in a string. And but then sometimes we'd go just about in the town, and a couple of times the German burgomaster or somebody would come out waving a flag, white flag. And he'd say, no German, no German, no German. Okay, so then we'd go on in, and there wasn't any, But you never knew. You could almost tell. You got to know if there was any Germans or not. Okay, another hour. If there wasn't any Germans, everything was quiet. There was no civilians, no nothing going on. You knew right away they're waiting for us. So
if there were Germans,
yeah, there were Germans.
quiet.
They were waiting for you, set up for firing, right? So.
But if you heard noises,
Yeah, if you heard noise or civilians out or something, well, you pretty well knew there wasn't any Germans there,
Were you ever strafed by the German Luftwaffe?
Nope, never did. We heard one a couple times go over us, but it wasn't scraped, which would have been a scary feeling, I'll tell you.
Now, were there any specific times you recall being pinned down?
Went pinned down? Oh, yeah. Of course, I was pinned down quite a bit when I went into these towns ahead. I waited for the rest of the guys to catch up to me. I laid down, and in effect, I was pinned down, yes, until our guys caught up to me, and then I'd go in with them. But
where would you try to hide out in the towns while you're waiting?
Well, I wasn't in the town, usually on the edge of town. Wherever I could find a place, if I could, sometimes it was just on the side of the road, but I was laying flat, hugging the ground. If there was a little hole or a ditch, that's where I landed. As soon as there was any firing, I hit the lowest spot I could. You learn that.
Did you ever come across any German pillboxes?
Pillboxes? I don't think we did.
Machine gun nests?
Oh yeah. Well, you had those in effect. You had those in Nuremberg. They set them up ahead of time, and putting all the towns would have machine guns, burp guns, whatever they had.
What, were there times machine guns fired at you?
Oh yeah.
What's it like to have bullets going around you?
Well, I tell you, you can hear them snapping. Whoa! Especially, I remember this one town we went in. I don't know the name of that town at all. I don't think I mentioned it to you before. Well, early in the morning, I was leading out. We took one town. The Germans were there. And that time I saw two women in the middle of the town after we got in. Right in the middle of town on the street was two women. Looked like they were an army outfit, and they had long hair. And they had been shot. They were blood all over and everything. The only time I saw women that in uniform. But then after taking that town, we walked about probably 5 miles. We come to this sort of on a hill, and down below us was a town, little farm town, probably a half a mile away. And when I got there, there was a couple tanks and some other GIs there. And so I thought, well, must be they're going to really take this town. But while I'm sitting there, I saw in the town, I could see some Germans running, like they were getting ready. A couple of run here and a run there, and then you'd see them back over there. And I thought, oh boy, we're going to have a fight here. So I sat there. Well, I heard then, I was off a ways, I heard our battalion commander, which first time I'd ever seen him up in front, battalion commander talking with a lieutenant. Well, come to find out later, I found out this lieutenant had refused to go into town, said that it was too dangerous, that we didn't have enough men. So after hearing this, and I seen the commander, our regimental commander, not regimental, battalion commander, talked to our captain, and then our captain said to our platoon sergeant, send a man in, see what's in there. Well, I knew who that was. That was me. I was leading out that day. So our platoon sergeant said to me, Brown, get your man and go in and see what's down there. So I said, okay. By now I'm getting kind of willy-nilly a little bit about going in there. So there was a dirt road going and leading into town, about a half a mile. So we go down this the dirt road was like for a farm, for farmers using it. We go down, walking down there, and it's quiet. I mean, everything goes dead quiet. There's no birds singing, there's no nothing. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning. Nice, pretty morning. Nice, sunshiny morning. All these GIs up on the hill, they had 3 tanks. They had the heavy weapons platoon all lined up with their machine guns. Our company. So as I'm about halfway back, I looked back and I said, holy shit, got all that firepower and all these Germans ahead of me. So I'm getting pretty leery. Up ahead of me is a barn, and off to the left of me, as it's coming down, there's a wood pile, just like we have up north. You probably have it in California, someplace where they use wood for burning. They pile up wood, they split it and pile it up, you know. Well, it's piled up probably 5 foot high beside the road, but the road kind of turns like this and goes in past this barn. So just as I make this turn, there's 2 guys. I'm carrying my rifle like this, luckily. And there's 2 guys sitting, 2 Germans. One with an iron fist, one with a rifle. Well, I didn't even think. I just fired. Boom, boom. And I hit them both. And I hit the ground. And oh my God, you never heard such firing. From our side and the German side. Machine guns, everything. And the tanks opened up, fired with their 75 or whatever they had, 76. One hit the barn, set that on fire. And that blew up. And I'm laying there beside the road as low as I can get, hugging the ground. And I could hear these bullets flying over me. And some of them, they pop, different kinds. I don't know what they were. They went pop, 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 pop. And then, of course, I could hear the other ones. So I'm hugging the ground. Finally, after about 15 minutes, I saw the infantry coming in, from our company and the other ones, the whole string of them. So as they got up to me, I got up and followed them on in then. Went past the barn who was burning, there was smoke. Got into town, there was, looks like 3 Germans sitting back. They had a machine gun nest there. And the one guy stood up. And I don't know yet if he stood up to shoot me or what. I didn't pay any attention. I shot him anyhow. Bing, boom. And in fact, I emptied my rifle into the bunch of them. Whether the other guys were dead already or not, I don't know. I stopped quickly, reloaded again, and went by them. They were dead, gone. Well, the guy had a pistol, the one I shot. I think he stood up to either shoot me or somebody with his pistol. He made a big mistake in standing up anyhow. And I went into town. Well, it was just a small little town, and there was a watering trough there. They used to have those in the little towns for people to water their horses and stuff. So the firing all stopped. So I sat on the watering trough, and a couple of the other guys come up. And I was hungry, so I opened up my sea ration can and started eating on that. And then in a little while, the tanks come in, like big heroes they always did, you know, after we're done. And after about 20 minutes, platoon sergeant says, okay, Brown, move it out. So we headed for the next town then. But that was the most firing I'd ever heard over my head.
What was that like?
Scary to hell, I'll tell you.
Did you think you were going to die overseas?
No, not really. I didn't know. If I did, I did. I accepted the thing even when I was in basic training. I thought, if I die, I die. I ain't going to worry about it, you know. So there's nothing you can do about it, you know. So I just kind of took the attitude. My dad kind of had that attitude that, hey, if you're going to die, you die. So.
Now, you joined the unit pretty late, you know, February.
Yeah.
War ends in May. Did you get close to anyone in your company?
Only my brother-in-law, and that I had met him in basic training, and he was my brother-in-law at the time. And when I come home on leave, they lived down by Detroit, down Wall Lake. And when I come home on leave, I said we had to get a train to go back to Baltimore to join or get on the ship. So I said, well, I'll meet you down at the train station, because I got to know him at basic training. That was the only guy I really got to know. Wayne Fagerly was his name. So when I went down, I was waiting at the train station while his dad and mother and the whole family came with him to see him off. So I met his family and his sister. His sister was like 17 at the time, and pretty little girl. So anyhow, we went overseas. And when I got overseas, I got a little letter from her, and so of course I wrote back to her, and then she sent me a picture and all that good stuff. And she was a mighty pretty little gal. So when I come home on leave, I married her. So that's what happened. So that's where I knew my brother-in-law.
He survived the war?
Yeah.
But he was in the same company?
He was in the same company, but in a different squad. So some of the time we were together and sometimes we weren't.
Would you guys talk about combat after the war
No,
together?
never did really. Never did. I know his family always said, well, how come you didn't talk? He died when he was fairly young. And they always said, well, how come you didn't talk in front of us? I don't know, we just never did. So, and besides, I don't think people back then was that interested in it as they are now. Suddenly people now in the last few years, they become more, like you, more interested in it. I think because we're disappearing, there isn't enough to talk about it anymore. Now, I had a brother-in-law from my second wife, Cindy. Him and his brother was both overseas, probably come over about the same time I did. I didn't know him over there at all. Well, Tony, they were Italians. Tony was a nice guy. Sammy, big blowwind. And he used to talk to everybody. He was in every battle there was in Europe. Even when he wasn't there, I knew it, of course. And I think most of his relation that he bragged about knew it too after a while. And turned out he wasn't even he was in the infantry company, the 36th, but he was in a motor pool in the headquarters. So he never saw any combat anyhow. So I used to kind of ignore him. So
now, can you tell me, I've had veterans tell me that Americans did not always take prisoners. Is that true?
Not that I know of. Sometimes if you were in doubt, like those two guys I shot coming in down that walk, maybe if I would have said, hey, do you want to surrender? They might have surrendered, eh?
No, I meant more along the lines of...
Once they were captured. No, I never saw any. Only time I saw one, we shot about 3 of them, and I didn't, but I was right there.
What happened?
Well, they captured a couple, and this was getting towards the end of the war. We got a little reckless, and they captured 3 of them.
3 what?
Germans. And the guy that captured them, there was 2 of them that in one of our other outfits, one of the other squads. Anyhow, they let their guard down. We're kind of talking. The Germans, quite often, they come out like this, They took their helmets off, and they come walking out like this. They surrender. Okay, that's kind of normal. Yeah, the one come down with a pistol and shot. Boom, boom. Well, he shot the one guy right in the mouth, and he bled to death right there.
What American?
Yeah, the American. And he shot another guy, but he missed him and shot him in the shoulder. Well, the guy that was standing right there, he had his rifle. Luckily, he shot, boom, boom, he shot all 3 of them dead. You might say he shot a prisoner, but he had an excuse,
And you saw this?
Yeah, I was just a few feet away. And, I heard the shots, and then I heard the boom, boom, and I saw the Germans fall, and our poor guy. And the guy had got shot in the mouth somewhere here, and before they could get a medical there or anything, he bled to death is what he did. What they hit, I don't know. Probably his vein.
So the German was pretending to surrender.
Oh yeah, all 3 of them had their hands like this, And maybe the other 2 was innocent Germans. I don't know. You'll never know because they're dead. But the one, when he brought his hand down, boom, boom, he had a pistol, see. And the other 2, I didn't see them do anything, but we shot them anyhow. They all did.
Was there as you guys got closer into Germany, did some of the men, what's the word, fraternize with the German women?
Not at the time, no, no. We didn't have any time for that anyhow. There wasn't.
But I'm saying as towards the end of the war, not after it was over, but towards the end.
No, no. We never had, infantry, you don't have time for that. Probably some rear echelon might. They had come into town and stay maybe a week or sleep there and stuff. They might have, I don't know. But not our outfit because we were on the move. In fact, once we crossed the Rhine River, we were going steady, day and night, sometimes day and night. We wasn't getting any sleep half the time and walk. And because we were covering a lot of area. And we didn't have any trucks. I mean, we didn't ride in trucks or nothing. It was all walking with our load. And right from one town to another town to another town. And we wouldn't have had the time to even think about a woman. We were too tired to even think about it. But as I say now, if say you were in headquarters and you stopped for a week or two and, set up, yeah, you might have had time to. I don't know. But I didn't see it at all.
Mr. Brown, could you tell me about your memories of the town of Zurbrücken?
The only thing I can remember is as we come into town, it had already been taken pretty much by another company. And as we came walking along the main drag, which ran along a river, there was German horses and men and wagons and everything all over the place. Our airplanes had come in and scraped them and done most of the killing. And the rest of the Germans had taken off what was left. So we had very little fighting there since the airplanes did their job. But it was a big mess. I thought, well, the poor civilians or somebody's got a big mess to clean up here of dead horses and wounded horses and dead men. That's all I remember really of it.
Sir, when you guys were in the combat zone, would you ride on top of the tanks?
Only from one place to another sometimes. Most of the time not. But when we, in fact, when we rode from Saarbrücken there, we kind of had a break then. We rode tanks for a couple days, more or less, to get over to where we were going to cross the Rhine River. And then a couple of times after that, we rode them usually just a short distance. If we were in a hurry and there was no Germans, we would get on and ride tanks. But that was only a couple times. Most of the time, it was walking.
And can you talk to me about your experience with German mines?
Only mine that I know of, I think, was that one in Nuremberg that I knew of. Well, I shouldn't take that. When we come into the one town where all the tanks were, there were mines in Ottweiler. Yeah, there was mines there as we come into town. I didn't get into them, but right next to us, just a short distance over, they had put mines, and some of the guys had stepped on them, and they were mines for personnel, not tanks, which would blow your foot off. And there was 4 or 5 got tangled into those mines there. We had walked on through them by that time, so we were lucky and didn't step on any. And the only other mines that I knew of was the one in Nuremberg that blew up the guy that him and I went up the steps. And I assume that was a mine. We never knew for sure, but the one went off and blew him all up pieces.
When you say it blew him to pieces, what do you mean?
Well, it pretty much blew the top of his head off, and his guts was hanging out and so forth. I would call that to pieces. It killed him, in other words. But it blew him back and blew him to pieces. That's about it, yeah.
What? And there were no other incidents with mines?
Nope, that's the only mine I ran into.
What? Did you ever have to provide first aid to any of the men?
Nope, never did. We had orders not to to give first aid. That was for the medic.
Were there any specific times that you saw fellow Americans around you getting hit with shrapnel or small arms fire?
That was the one in Nuremberg, yes. We had, that morning, we had almost half the company got hit. We were in a long scrimmage line and heading into town, into these apartment houses, and the Germans opened up on us and hit, I would say probably altogether maybe 30 or 40 men. And and we at first hit the ground, and then we got up and all fired and went on in, and we got the Germans chased out of there. But that was the most men I seen hit at one time.
When you say you saw them getting hit, I mean you actually saw them.
No, I didn't see him actually get hit. I just saw him on the ground afterwards.
So, can you tell me a little bit about times that you actually saw guys around you getting hit?
That was about the only time. Usually you don't see them, because if you're going into a line, you're like into a town in a scrimmage line. You're firing your gun, firing at the Germans. You're not looking to either side or behind you. If somebody happened to be in front of you, but they're not normally in front of you, they're on one side or the other. You might see one, but usually you don't see it. You don't even know they're hit a lot of times until you get inside and see, well, the guy isn't with you anymore. But most of the time, you're not looking at either side. You're looking straight ahead, firing your gun, and that's it. So you don't really get to see them, no.
What was the closest you got to the German infantry?
Well, that one I told you about going into that town, we were probably not any more than 50 feet away when I shot the two guys. And when we got into town, we probably wasn't over 100 feet from them when the guy stood up and was going to fire at me or somebody, I think me, and I got him. But so that's pretty close right there.
Was that your first time firing at the German infantry?
Oh, no. We'd fired before that.
No, I'm saying you, though.
Pardon?
You, though. For you personally, that was the first time?
No. I'd fired before that.
I've had veterans tell me conflicting things, sir. I hope you can clear this up for me. Some veterans tell me that, when you're firing as a rifleman on the line.
Yeah.
Just turn your side. Okay. Some veterans tell me that when you're firing as a rifleman on the line, when you get into a firefight, you don't really know who you're firing at, because so many people are firing from the American side, and it's going here and there and there. You don't know if you really hit anyone.
No.
But I've also heard other veterans tell me that when you get into firefights, you need to, put your gun up and aim, and you see the person fall, and you know that, it was your bead that did that. But which one's more? Is one more true than the other?
No, I would say more true that you don't, because when you're in a firefight, especially coming into a town or anything, you're not aiming usually. You're firing from the hip, because you're not aiming at anybody in particular. You're aiming at the buildings or houses or whatever. If you see a German, yeah, but they're not going to stick themselves out where you can shoot at them. You don't see them. You're just firing at the town, and so therefore you're not seeing any German really, and you're firing from the hip, not from the shoulder. Unusual to fire from the shoulder unless you're in a standing position or something and happen to see a German, but that's unusual. But usually when you're firing a firefight, you're not seeing what you're shooting at. You're just firing as fast as you can from the hip.
How old were you when you were in combat?
I was 19.
So you were my age.
Yeah.
The two Germans that you shot, was that the first time you knew for sure you'd hit your target?
I think it was. I'm trying to think if there was any other places that I was that close to them. Because most of the time you're firing, you don't know if you hit anybody or not. Because you're just firing as fast as you can and shooting. Uh, I think that was the first time that I actually was that close to him and, actually seen the guy right in front of me where I had to shoot him. Yeah.
What's that like for a 19-year-old having to kill someone like that?
Didn't bother me. Didn't pay any attention to it.
No.
No.
You're a nice guy. You're telling me it didn't phase you at all?
No. I just done my job. That's all.
No, you're
I mean, come on. You gotta do it right now, fast. Either that or you're gonna get shot. Remember, the guy right after that was going to kill me. So, what are you going to do?
No, I understand that part, but I'm saying after the fact that it happened, like, when the fighting was done, did you think about it or no?
Not really. No. It was just kind of part of the job.
Were there some guys who bragged about how many Germans they'd killed?
Not that I ever knew of. No.
Was it something that you guys would talk about amongst yourselves?
Mm-mm. Nope.
You just kept it to yourself?
Yeah. Never discussed it.
In your life, did it ever bother you?
No.
I'm not saying what you did was wrong. I think what you did was right because you had to.
Yeah.
But it's also killing.
No.
And no one wants to do that, right?
No. You don't have a choice. Either that, otherwise you die. Maybe I just never let it bother me. I don't know. It never bothered me that I know of.
Oh, you're a very strong person then.
Yeah.
When you came home, did you have any nightmares?
No, I never did. Some guys claim they did, but I never
did. A lot of guys did.
Yeah.
Well, loud noises, when the cars would backfire.
Yeah. I only had one incident. We were going into in the theater one time with my wife and daughter and her husband, and a loud bang went off, and I don't know yet what it was, firecracker or what, and it scared me. I dropped to the floor, boom, just like you would in combat. You drop, you don't lay down, you just drop down flat. And then I got up feeling silly. I said, oh, I stumbled or something and let it go.
Oh yeah. Did they buy that?
I guess so. I don't know. They didn't say anything. So, but my wife was always very good. My first wife, very good about anything, anyhow. Being her brother was in and I was in at the same time, and so she was always very good with me. As far as I never even talked about it much, but if we did, why, she was always nice about it. So,
can you tell me? Did you ever use grenades in combat?
Just, yeah, in that apartment house in Nuremberg I did. I threw that one down the hall, and it went off, kabang, and that's when, then we went down there very cautiously because there was two Germans down there. They had thrown one at me, and then I threw one back at him. They have a little different one. They have a handle on theirs, and but they were gone, and I apparently didn't kill them. I don't know if they jumped out the window or what, but it must have scared the hell out of them because they were gone. And then I had one other one that was at a little town we were in, and it was a matter of over a fence, and so I threw a grenade over that, and I don't know if I got anybody or not. But again, it scared them out anyhow. So they were gone when I came around while they were gone. So that's the only time I use grenades. But they make an awful noise.
What does it sound like?
Just a great big boom, and that little pieces of shrapnel goes flying all over the place. I don't know if you ever seen one, but they're made purposely all rough with lines on them, back and forth, so when they break, when they bust, all these little pieces go all directions.
And tell me about living conditions in combat?
Well, you just live with what you've got. You have nothing with you. I always carried a blanket, and if we did stop to sleep at night or whenever, you just lay down on the ground wherever you can find a spot. Hopefully it's dry, and if it's raining, I used to carry a poncho with me in my back, and if it rained, you put your poncho on, and of course you still got wet and cold. And I know some people don't believe that you just sleep on the ground. I had people ask me about, well, where did you sleep? And I said, on the ground. Well, didn't you have a bunk or didn't you have a bed? No. Where are you going to get a bed from? You don't have nothing but what you carry. And you want to get rid of everything you're carrying as much as you can because they're heavy, especially when you're doing a lot of walking. You got your gun, your ammunition, your grenades, your canteen, and so forth. And that's why, like at Utweller and a couple other places, when we wanted to move fast, I'd undo my blanket and drop that, and never drop my gun or ammunition, but get rid of a little weight so you can run faster. But as far as living, you just live on the ground. That's it. There isn't any place to go. I think people must imagine that the Army carries beds along with them and so forth for you sleeping, I guess. I don't know.
Where do you go to the bathroom?
Oh, in the bushes or wherever you can. In the ditch or wherever.
What do you do if you run out of toilet paper?
They furnished toilet paper in the sea ration cans. That was one thing they were smart. In the sea ration can, you get 6 cans. 3 of them is like meat and beef or something like that, and then the other one is biscuits. But in the top of the biscuit can, you have a little can opener in each one. You have about 3 little candies, hard candy. You have a little packet of either coffee, cocoa, or lemonade. Lemonade went over good in the wintertime. Yes, sir. And also a little roll of toilet paper, about that big. So you had toilet paper.
What if you ran out?
Tough. I never did.
Really? I heard you were only given like 3 square pieces.
No, it was a little roll, little folded up like. And yeah, you had to be a little cautious that you carried, if you opened another can, you kept the toilet paper.
And would you just put the toilet paper right next to where you took a dump?
Yeah. Wherever you left it. What are you going to do with it?
I just think it's amazing. All the GIs that we sent over to Europe.
Yeah.
There must be so much trash left after the war,
Yeah.
There must be so many piles of crap and trash.
But see, the rear echelon, they had toilets or they dug holes for them.
Yeah, but the GIs.
But the infantry, well, we didn't have a place to go.
I mean, but like in a division, it's like
Yeah.
15,000 guys. That's like
Yeah.
15.
I had to go one night, and it was dark and rainy, and I had to go. So I had to pull out the line, and it's dark. So anyhow, I squatted there and done my little job, and got done, and then I had to try to catch up with the rest of the guys. They were gone ahead of me. I stumbled over a wire and got my rifle dirty, and I had a hell of a mess. I finally caught up to him. Well, then when I caught up to him, I had to start trying to clean my rifle off. I was afraid I plugged it up. And the only thing you got in a rifle then is you have a little weight in it with a string, and you can push it through the barrel, shake it through. So I shook that through and cleaned out if there was any in there. I didn't know if there was any mud in there or not. But that's how you go.
Now, a lot of the fighting you've told me about happened in towns, but did you guys ever engage the Germans in forested areas?
Yeah, we've had a couple times. We had one that, actually it was a forest where the railroad was going through. And they were behind the railroad. And they would shoot at us from the railroad. They'd jump up and shoot or stick their head up, and then they'd move. So it was hard to pin them down. And we fooled them, though. Down the line a ways, we found a an opening where they had an opening for the farmers to go underneath the railroad track. So about 10 of us went down there, and as we went underneath the tracks, we could see the Germans firing down the line. So we went through there and opened up fire and got most of them. A couple of them took off running, but that stopped the firing then. And where they went on back into the woods or where, I don't know where they went. But yeah, for a little while we were kind of pinned down because they were shooting at us from the railroad tracks, and we couldn't get a shot at them because they'd move every time they'd shoot, and then they'd move a few feet over while you're waiting for them. Well, they'd just come up, shoot, and duck down again. So it was kind of a tricky little deal. We finally got them anyhow.
When you say we got them, what do you mean?
Well, we killed about 4 or 5, and the rest of them took off. When they saw us come out from the track, down the track a ways, and where we could shoot at them, they decided it was time to scram.
When you say we,
yeah, there was about 4 of us.
Is that one of those cases where because there's 4 of you and you're all shooting, you don't know who hit who?
No, you don't know who hit who. You just shoot.
Where do you usually aim?
Where, at the guy? At his body. Yeah.
What, his chest area?
Yeah.
But you're telling me you never put up your rifle?
Well, yeah, in a case like that, you would.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, because you got a little distance there, see?
Got it.
Yeah.
What would you say that distance was? Football field length.
It probably was a couple hundred yards. It was quite a little ways. But,
and tell me, the fighting in the pencil factory?
yeah.
What was that like? I mean, it was literally a factory and you're just ducking between?
No, we were in the factory. We got in the factory. They weren't in it. They were outside.
Oh.
They had killed a couple of our guys getting in there. Well, coming that morning, we got hit coming up the hill, and then I got blew up with that other guy, and it was a terrible morning. And then we were going in, and the one squad leader, he got shot, and so we got into the pencil factory, and there was no Germans in there. There was one on the roof, though, with a burp gun. We could hear him every once in a while shoot, but we didn't know how to get at him. We'd shoot through the roof, because there was a 2-story, so some of us were on the 2nd story, some on the 1st, and we locked the door, and so now we were shooting at the Germans. And that's why I said we shot the 6 of them sneaking along the fence. And that guy on top, that damn burp gun, every once in a while, he'd let go some fire, not at us, but at somebody else. And we're trying to shoot at him where he's at, but I don't think we ever hit him. And I don't know yet how he got up there. We never saw a ladder in the building. So I don't know if he climbed the rope or how he got up there. But it was a good spot for us. We could shoot out at the Germans then. We were like snipers. So that was a kind of a reverse. But we didn't really want to go out. We'd got so many hit that morning and killed that we were getting a little gun shy getting out. So we stayed in the building for about 4 hours. So.
Can you tell me, did you ever come across any men who had shell shock or battle fatigue?
No, except that one that I was telling you about that used to disappear in our outfit. He was in our company. He wasn't in our squad or anything.
You didn't know anyone who shot himself in the foot or something?
No, I never did.
Most of the guys you were with, how old were they?
Young, my age. We did have a couple older guys. When I say older, probably in their 20s. That one had a family, like a couple kids. And but most of them were, 19, 20-year-old. Yeah.
So would you say the 3rd Division had it cycled through an entire group of people with replacements?
Oh yeah, I think because I think altogether they had 30-some thousand. Well, a division is only 15.
Casualties, you mean?
Pardon?
30,000 casualties.
Right. And so they went over about double. And again, you got to look at the fact that most all of them was infantry, dog faces, that was injured or killed. Headquarters people, they stayed there, a lot of them, all the way through the war, because they weren't getting killed or knocked off. So when you say 30,000, that's 30,000 of infantry mainly that was knocked off or replaced, Yeah.
And tell me, sir, what was the strategic importance of Nuremberg?
I think because it was kind of the birthplace of the Nazi Party. And I think that was the big thing about that they put up such a fight,
Did you guys know that that was the birthplace of the Nazis when you were fighting there?
Yeah, I had heard that before, during the 30s when they were forming and so forth, and I read about it in the newspaper. My dad talked about it and so forth, and I remember saying about Nuremberg having their big rally there and so forth. Yeah.
What kind of what kind of rumors spread with among dog faces usually? What kind of things would guys talk about or hear? Poop from the group. What kind of stuff?
Not a whole lot. You don't really have time to do much talking anyhow.
Well, when you're off the line, what do you do?
Oh, not a lot. You eat your sea rations and sit around and freeze and so forth like that. Yeah, just chit chat about girls or something like that, but nothing too much else.
Did you not try to become close to any of the men besides that one guy, Wayne?
No,
Why not?
I don't know of any reason to. I don't think any of us did. Yeah. I mean, you get to know him, like Johnson that got killed there. I knew I knew he was from Ohio, but that's about all. You say hi, don't like that. You go on patrol with him and so forth, and but outside of that, I don't know. You just never got that close to him.
Was Johnson the one who stepped on the mine?
Yeah.
How old was he?
I think about my age. I'm not sure.
What kind of guy was he like?
He was all right. All right. About the average guy. Yeah.
When you were in any of the forested areas, did you guys get tree bursts?
No, never did.
Do you know what that is?
Yeah. We did when we were going the first day going into Nuremberg. We got bursts from up above, and first I never told you that, but first we were coming within range of Nuremberg, and we stopped on this little kind of a hill ridge like. There was 3 houses there, which was unusual because most of the houses over there was in villages, but there were 3 houses there, and we had some tanks following us. So we pulled off. They said take a break, so we were pulled over, and I looked over in the field, maybe half a mile away, maybe not quite, but there was a wagon load of hay, a big wagon load of hay, farm wagon. No horses or nothing, just a wagon load of hay. I said to the guy next to me, whoever he was, I said, something wrong. There shouldn't be a load of hay out there. It was just a field. And I said, a farm field. I said, there's something funny there. Well, about the time the tanks pulled up, they were following behind us. They pulled up and stopped. This wagon moved. Now, how they had it move, I don't know. They must have had it on a rope or something. I couldn't see the guys, but they must have had it on a pulley or something. The wagon slowly moved ahead, and there was an 88 sitting right there. Well, that 88 opened up, and the first time they missed. They hit the house, went into the house, and then they fired again, and that time they hit the front tank. Well, after the first shot, the tankers all jumped out, and they got down behind. So the second shot, they hit a tank. Our tank burst into flame. Well, then they fired a couple more, and they hit the houses. They never did hit the other. The one tank was down too far. It was a kind of a little hill there. And the other one was really behind the houses. They couldn't hit them. Well, then about that time, and I don't know how they did it so fast, our artillery must have been following right behind us. About that time, I don't know if you ever seen in a movie or anything how the artillery fires. They'll fire 3 shots, 3 rounds, boom, boom, boom. And what they do, that's how they zero in on the person or the place. And they fire one short, one long, one in the middle. And they fired those 3 rounds just like I saw in the movies at the training. And about that time, the Germans knew what was coming. They took off. I could see them running. And then our artillery opened up. It takes them about 30 seconds to zero in their guns. And then they opened fire and they just plastered that 88. Well, the Germans, wherever they went into a ditch or where, I don't know. We couldn't see them anymore. But after we went across, then they said, well, we'll go across that field towards Nuremberg. And that's when they hit us with overhead fire, airburst. And the Germans, and what it is, the airburst up above, and then it spreads. And I had a couple of pieces hit me, one in the helmet and one on the shoulder, but they were firing too high. And I know one of the guys said, well, their shrapnel is not, really hurting us. It's bursting too high in the air. So I don't know. That's the only time I ran into airbursts like that.
But did you ever see direct artillery hits take place? Guys getting hit directly from the artillery?
Yeah, that's what I said. I saw them at the Rhine River there. I was telling you that.
Was that the aftermath, or you actually saw them getting hit?
No, I didn't see them get hit. No, I never saw them get hit.
You saw the aftermath?
Yeah.
So what I want to know is, were there times that you saw guys getting hit with shells?
No. I usually got my head down.
But there must have been times that you were under an artillery bombardment yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Shells were going off around you?
Yeah, you usually bury yourself, your head. I don't look around.
But what do you do for protection?
Well, you're near a hole or a little ditch or whatever you can find, the lowest place you can find. Like in Nuremberg there, I found a little, for a few minutes hiding, there was a little cement thing they had. Apparently they had, the Germans originally had like gardens in there, the civilians. And right beside me almost, there was a little cement embutment. But, not very high, maybe 6-8 inches. But I said, that's a little protection anyhow. So I kind of snuggled behind that. But you try whatever you can to find a hole, a ditch, something, get yourself down low.
Did you guys have any engagements with the Hitler Youth?
I still think that 6 that we shot in Nuremberg was Hitler Youth.
Were they in German uniform?
Oh yeah, they were in the union. Yeah, they were in the uniform, but they looked like new uniforms, and they looked awful young to me, from what I could see.
And were they shooting at you guys, or they were running?
They were sneaking along. They were heading towards us, but they were sneaking along the fence.
So before you guys shot them, did you guys talk amongst yourself and said who's going to get who, or you guys just shot?
No. I just called over a couple guys. In the meantime, I'd got the BAR, because he'd got hit. So I had the BAR, and I had a couple other riflemen, and I said, come on, let's get them, and we got them. We all opened fire at the same time. I scattered them with my BAR, and they fired the rifle.
And where was this?
That was outside of when we were in the pencil factory in Nuremberg.
Did you guys ever have any engagements with the SS?
Not that I know, and I don't know if they're SS or not. You don't know, when you're firing back and forth, you don't know if they're SS or not.
But you never went souvenir hunting? You never picked up any souvenirs off of the dead Germans?
Not then. You can't carry them.
A lot of guys would go after Lugers or something like that.
Yeah, if you found a Luger, you would. But even then, you don't carry it very long. It's too heavy. You throw it away or give it away.
And tell me,
most of your guys that get souvenirs, they got them either after the war, like me, or they got them, they're rear echelon. They are the ones that got them.
You told me that there were 2 forest incidents. One with the railroad, but what was the other one? You tell me about times you got in a firefight in a forest.
In the forest, yeah. I'm trying to think of the other one. You're going to lose me now. I thought of it before, but I can't think of it now.
There was one where it was the railroad.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to come up with the other one.
During
Sorry.
the winter, did you guys have winter clothing?
Not anything particular. We had sweaters, heavy sweaters, and an extra underwear shirt thing on, and then we had these pile liners. They're like a sheepskin thing. We put that and then our coat over that. Yeah, that was really extra winter stuff. Yeah. And then on our pants, we had 2 pair of pants on.
Were they white? Like, do you have camouflage or no?
No, we didn't get any camouflage. No. And we didn't have any special boots either. Just the regular combat boots.
Can you talk to me about the destruction done to the towns that you saw in Germany?
Some not, and some of it a lot. Like Ottweiler, that was practically completely destroyed. Poor little town. And, of course, Nuremberg had been bombed.
Describe what did Nuremberg look like?
Well, some of it, the buildings were okay. You'd be surprised. Especially like those apartment buildings. A lot of them were not bombed at all or anything. And that's what made it so bad in the fighting. And then you'd come next to where they were bombed and the whole section of town would be bombed out, you know. And then like the downtown behind that wall city that we set that night thinking we were going to have to go in, after the Germans left, we went through the door and looked, and well, the inside of that downtown, which would have been the main part of town, that was all bombed out. That was just nothing but a bunch of wreck buildings, you know. Yeah.
Where were you when the war ended?
We were in Salzburg, Austria.
How did you officially hear that the war was over?
Well, when we were in Salzburg, about the 3rd day, we moved out to the suburbs because we were going to take any Germans that were surrendering in. They had a park right near there, and we were going to, when Germans come in, we'd put their vehicles and guns and stuff in the park and have them go on into where they had them fenced in. And we were staying in this, we took over a house, a German house, well, Austrian house. And so we had gone to bed about 10 o'clock or so, and all of a sudden we heard this banging up in the air and out on the ground, and they was shooting up anti-aircraft guns, I think it looked like, in the air. So somebody said, I think the Germans are attacking us. So we all fell out with our rifles and our ammo and everything all ready. And we lined up on the street, we're ready. And about then along comes the runner and he says, the war is over. That's what all the shooting's about. Oh, okay. The war is over. So we went back to bed. That was it.
No, you went back to bed?
Yeah, what are you going to do? We didn't have nothing to celebrate with, so.
How long were you there for occupation before you got to come home?
Well, I was there put a year. Well,
after the war ended.
Yeah,
so
up
you came
till
home in 46.
Yeah, I come home in January 46. So that would have been from May to then. That'd be what, 6, 7,
8 months.
8 months about, yeah.
Now, what life advice do you want to give to future generations?
Well, I think the main thing is to be faithful to your country. We've got too many that don't care, won't give a hoot, might never even want to fight for their country or anything. And I think we should be teaching this more in schools. We should have a salute for the flag more. We should be doing more patriotic things, which we're not doing. We used to, in our old country grade school, we used to salute the flag every morning. They don't do that anymore. The kids don't even know what it is, so.
But you would salute it like this, wouldn't you?
No, not that way. This way.
Oh.
This way is Hitler's way.
I know, but I'll tell you about it after the interview.
Yeah.
We actually, back in the 1800s, that's actually how we used to do it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Could be.
Anyway, if you were to give me some wisdom based on your combat experiences as a 19-year-old, what would you tell me?
Well, I don't know. I still think it would be good for biggest share of young guys to be in the Army for I would give them like even 6 months training, just so they got an idea what it's about. And it was terrible when I went over to Korea to show you how bad it can get. Uh, they were needing men bad in Korea. They didn't have them over there, and the army wasn't ready. We weren't ready. Truman had disarmed their whole nation. I had 30 men fly over with me to Korea, and then over to Korea, Korea. Two of those men had never fired a rifle, had never had basic training. They didn't know how to fire. They'd give them a rifle, all the men. They didn't have any ammunition with them, but they had rifles. But two of them didn't know how to fire it or any idea about it. Now that's terrible. Where if they would have had training, they should have been at least able to fire a rifle, you know. There you are.
But if you were to give me some wisdom for my life, what would you tell me?
Oh, just be a good guy, that's all, I guess.
Am I doing okay so far?
Yes, you're doing good. Find yourself a nice woman, get married, and have a couple kids. There you are.
What do you want to say to all the men who were killed overseas in World War II?
Well, it's just too bad, that's all. I don't want to say anything to them. Just too bad, that's all.
Are you afraid of death?
Pardon?
Are you afraid of death?
No. I'm tell my kids that whenever I go, I go. I'm not worried about it, never have been.
What do you think happens after someone dies?
Well, that all depends on opinion, and I don't want to get into that. That can get into religion, you can get into whatever.
I'm just asking you personally, what do you believe?
I believe you're dead. That's it, you're dead. Sorry. I know I'm supposed to believe in the Bible and all that good stuff, but I'm sorry. I still think that when you're dead, you're dead.
You told me you went to church almost like...
I know, but I don't believe everything that I see and hear. I have my own opinion. That's silly, I know.
So you don't believe in heaven? Or you just doubt it? Or you just don't know?
I don't know. Maybe there is. Who knows? Maybe there's a hell. Maybe, I don't know.
But at this point in time, you believe...
I'm not worried about it.
but at this point in time, you believe that you're just dead?
Yep. If you go to heaven, fine. If you go to hell, that's fine too. I ain't going to worry about it.
Aren't you freaked out about just being dead?
No.
Why not?
Why worry about it?
I'm freaked out by it.
You're going to die sometime. I'm going to die sometime. Right?
With the way medicine's going, maybe I don't have to die.
Yep.
I'm really scared of death.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
No. Why?
I like living. I like meeting people. I like doing
Oh, yeah.
things.
I do too.
I don't want to die. I don't know what happens after I die.
No, I don't want to die either. But I'm not scared of it. If I die, I die. Nothing you can do about it. So.
How do you want to be remembered, Mr. Brown?
Just a good guy, that's all. I raised a nice family. I worked hard all my life, and I just hope that I did some good in the world, that's all. If I didn't, I didn't, but I did my best.
But your friends, your family, what kind of person do you want them to think of you as?
Good guy, yeah.
That's what you want to say on your obituary? He was a good guy?
Yeah.
Honest?
Well, pretty well. They won't say that, but...
Well, what do you want them to say?
Oh, they'll give me a nice rundown. I know my daughters, they'll make me a nice-looking guy.
You want them to remember you as a World War II hero?
Oh, yeah. Not a hero. Forget that. I don't like that.
A World War II veteran?
Yeah, that's okay.
A World War II combat veteran?
That's better yet.
A World War II combat infantry veteran?
Right. A dog face. Dog face used to be a kind of a derogatory remark, but then with World War II, we kind of took that as a compliment to be a dog face. Yeah. I know my brother, he was in the Marines, and he used to say, Army was all dog face. I said, no. Us infantrymen, we were dog faces, not the rest of them. There's a difference.
Oh, between everyone in the Army and the infantry?
Well, the dog faces, yeah. Well, then, and the infantry, because they count the infantry, everybody in the headquarters and everybody else in infantry division, you know.
You sound like you hate everyone in headquarters.
No, I don't hate them.
You just don't like how they get attention that they don't
Yeah,
necessarily
yeah.
deserve.
And a lot of them like to brag about what all they did, you know.
I agree. I agree. Can you tell me though about taking prisoners? Towards the end of the war, the Germans, they were giving up in mass,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Can you talk to me about your memories of that? What would you guys do?
Nothing, really. Most of the time, up, have them raise their hand up, or like they put this, and then we'd usually just send them to the rear, that's all. We didn't march them back or anything, we'd just go to the rear.
You have them put their weapons down?
Well, yeah, they had already got rid of them. Very seldom they surrendered with their weapons. They had got rid of them beforehand.
But by the time you joined the 3rd, was it very obvious that the war was going to be in America's favor, that we were going to defeat Germany?
Well, I think in Germany, but Japan was still pretty doubtful, you know. They were having a terrible time in Japan. And I felt sorry. I still feel more sorry for the guys in the Pacific, the infantry, that had to land with boats and walk in the water and go in while they're firing at them from the islands, you know. Those poor guys didn't have any place to hide, no place to crawl. They were in the open. And I always felt they had it worse than we did. There's come 5 o'clock, I think, eh? Yep.
I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
Can you tell me about the other times that you used the BAR, sir?
Oh, I used it up when we were in the pencil factory. And the reason I got it, one of the guys come in and he didn't know how to fire it. And he had lost his rifle or something. He had the BAR, and I said, well, what are you doing with the BAR? And he said, well, I picked it up, but I don't know how to fire it. So I said, well, here, take my rifle. I'll take the BAR. So I used it up there a couple times when we shot those 6 and a couple other times. Then the next morning, I had it with me, and the next morning, excuse me, we were going to go through some buildings. They were little shops and so forth, shopping area. And we couldn't go down the street because the Germans had a machine gun nest down a ways. So in order to get around them, I used the BAR to open the doors. I'd shoot a door with a BAR, break it open. We'd go through one shop, through the alley, into the next one. And a couple times the doors were locked. Well, I just boom, and opened the door. And we got down beyond where the machine gun nest was. And so then we stepped out into the street where they were, and they're back. There were 6 of them. Wasn't that nice of them? All their back to us. And I had 3 guys with me, rifles, and me with the BAR. And we just opened up and shot them all down. So that ended. Now we could go down the street. But about that time, some newer guy come up, kind of a big guy, and I said, would you like the BAR? He said, well, I think so. He says, I don't know. I don't like this rifle. I says, good, we'll trade. You take the BAR, and I'll take the rifle. So I gave him the belt and the whole thing. I said, oh, good, I got rid of that damn thing. It's heavy. It weighs 20 pounds, you know.
Oh, poor guy. He didn't know what he was getting himself into.
Then I had a big belt on there. It's got double all the ammunition on it. You can't hardly run with that thing. I said, I don't want no part of that thing. I liked my little M1, man. That was good.
Wait, so at the pencil factory, you guys took out 6 Germans.
Yeah.
And then the next day...
You had 6 more.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
The machine gun nest.
Yeah.
And they didn't know what hit them?
No, they never knew what hit them.
How close were they?
Oh, they were only a block. Man, when we stepped out there, I just peeked around, but they were all looking down where like we were coming, see? They didn't know we had snuck around them. And they had sandbanks put up like here, and they had their machine gun behind us, see? They were blocking off the street. And they didn't know we'd got behind them. So I got these other, I think there was 4 guys with the infantry. I says, come on, we got to step out. So we all stepped out there real fast, and brrr, they went down.
Just like that?
Yeah. Too bad. Now again, I suppose you could have said, do you surrender? but I ain't gonna do that.
You can't yell a block away.
No, and besides that, they'd probably turn around and shoot me.
During Nuremberg, was it always loud constantly? Loud noises going
Not
on?
always, not always, no. You'd hear off and on a lot of shooting, and then sometimes nothing. Like we were in that, I was telling you, I was in that, me and another guy in that part house. But it was quiet. We were the only ones, them two Germans and us. Everything else was quiet. So you don't know what to do, whether to turn and run and get out of there or go on fighting.
Overall, your fighting in combat, was it usually in the daytime, or did a lot of fighting happen at night?
Mostly daytime, yeah.
Would there ever be night fights?
Yeah, sometimes. We had a couple of different times. We went in the towns that we would, take during the night. A couple of things different, but mostly during the daytime, yeah.
Would you guys ever take more than one town in a day?
Yeah, that one that I was telling you about, we took 3 towns that day. We went early in the morning, then the one I walked down that street all by myself with all them other guys behind me.
With all the firing?
Yeah, and then from there we went to another town. But that town, we got there and I got almost in the town. It was still pretty quiet, I didn't know. And that's when the burgomaster come out waving a flag. He says, "No German, no German." Okay. So that was an easy town to take. I like that.
And the city of Nuremberg, is that equivalent to what kind of city? Ann Arbor, Detroit?
I would think more, yeah, like Ann Arbor. I think it was about 500,000. I think it was a big town. Yeah.
And it was just, what, it was just rubble? Where the places that it was destroyed?
Well, the downtown and then some parts of it. And yet a lot of these apartment houses and that one area that morning we went through, shopping area, wasn't hit at all, which probably was, they never dropped a bomb there,
So there's a lot of house-to-house fighting going on.
Yeah.
And you participate in that. What's the procedure when you're going into a building and there are Germans in there? What do you do?
Well, if you're new at that, you'd throw in a grenade first. Say hello. Yeah.
And then?
Then you go in, yeah. But then you go in pretty carefully. And sometimes if you go in shooting, they'll give up. You don't know what they're going to do.
Did you ever get prisoners from your house-to-house fighting?
Yeah, we got some in fact, that second day was it? No, third day. We captured some. After we shot those guys there, we went down the street a ways, and then we fired a few times, and about 6 or 8 Germans come out. They surrendered. So we sent them back.
Were there ever times in the house-to-house fighting that they didn't surrender?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like that one in that apartment house. They didn't surrender. I don't know.
They ran away, though.
I guess so. I don't know what happened.
I'm talking about the U.S. had to take them out.
Yeah. Well, a couple times, yeah.
What happened?
Well, that one, let's see, I'm trying to think where that one was at. After that street fighting, after that, well, we took them out of that house, that one house. There was 3 of them in there, but they surrendered. After we fired on them, they surrendered. So I guess you'd call taking them, I don't know. We didn't shoot them.
Oh, so you never had to shoot anyone in the house-to-house. Is that right?
No. Not that I can remember.
Going back to the artillery, sir. Actually, even before that. Replacements. You were a replacement.
Yep.
But while you were there, you would have replacements come in.
Yep.
How green were they?
Same as me. Most of them, though, I had pretty good training in the States. They had like us 15 weeks of training. And most of them, they knew their rifle and so forth. Yeah, they were pretty good.
But, because someone told me that it was replacements that were most of the casualties. Replacements who had done dumb things, or just didn't know what to do.
Well, possible, but I don't know. We always had replacements coming in. I didn't pay any
But
attention
were
to
they
that.
always the ones who were getting hurt?
I don't think any more than the older guys. No,
Hmm.
maybe a little more.
Would you do anything for good luck before you would go into combat?
No, no.
You don't pray or nothing?
Once in a while at night, yeah.
What would you pray for?
Just I just pray. Thank God for being alive. That's all.
You write letters home?
Yeah.
To who?
Sometimes we wrote not a lot.
Who would you write to?
Well, I had a dad and my girlfriend and so forth. So
Was your dad a World War One veteran?
no.
When you came home, I mean, I guess it was easier for you to transition because you were there for an occupation,
Yeah.
right?
By the time I come home, it was old stuff. Come on, let's face it. It was 7, 8 months old. A lot of other guys. My brother had been home and everybody else. So it was. The war was over. Everybody kind of forgot it by now. Good, forget it.
Was that sad for you?
No, you just kind of expected, I guess.
Did you expect that though? Before you came home?
Well, I didn't expect any big celebration or anything. No,
Oh gosh.
my family wasn't that way anyhow. So
Were you and your dad close or no?
well, pretty close, yeah. He was proud of me and all that, but yeah, the war had been over. Everybody was kind of done with it. I think they had enough of it.
Last question. The artillery. The artillery.
Hmm.
Did you see the show? The only times that I know you were under artillery yourself, but the only times that men were getting hit were at the Rhine that you know of?
Yeah.
I mean, do you have an estimate on how many bombardments that you were under?
Not over 3 or 4.
Oh, the entire war.
Yeah, maybe a little more than that because we got that airburst that time. The Rhine. In effect, we got hit in Nuremberg a couple of different times with shells, but I don't know if they were firing at us or what they were firing at, to be honest about it.
But it doesn't sound like artillery was that big of a deal to you.
No. Except I was scared of it when I see what it does to people,
Which is what?
Tear them all to pieces. Those pieces, though, you ever see those pieces of shells? They're big and little, but some of them are big as my hand, and they're all jagged. Yeah, they make the metal that way. Just terrible, sharp, jagged. And it hits you, just tears you to pieces, Yeah. It doesn't just go like a bullet, kind of clean, it goes in and out. But these here, they just tear you all to pieces, yeah.
And when men are wounded in combat, movies like to say that they call out for their mothers. Is that
Yeah.
true? Or do they say medic? Or do they even say anything?
Mostly medic. I never heard anything else. Medic, yeah.
Any last words?
Nope, I think that'll do it.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you
Okay.
so much for your service.
Yeah,